What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Sky Factory. As you can see, I completely destroyed my... No, I'm just kidding. So I'm hanging out here in the end, and I'm at negative almost 10,000 and on the Z and basically 0 on X. Just in the distance there is what I believe to be one of these Chaos Dragons. Yeah, it's loading in now. Yeah, so you can see I'm already in the kind of the perimeter of it. You get these like rings of endstone, and then in the center there is where this guy's going to spawn in. We're going to fight this dude and see what happens here. So I've got my my item dislocator. I don't really necessarily need that, I don't think. Let's just put that over here. Let's get this food kind of close. I got my teleporter in case things get crazy. Let's just make sure. Okay, that'll take me away from here. While I'm thinking about it, I actually just want to set a new place right here. I'll just leave it named that now for now, so I know where it is, and we'll lock it just in case. Cool. So depending on how this goes, I might fast forward through it or some of it, but basically this is the Chaos Dragon. He's very similar in mechanics as far as how to kill him. There's a bunch of, you can see the pillars. There's a bunch more of them. All the ones on the outer ring are armored, and then I think there's like 4 or 6 inside there too. But these have shields on them, so as soon as you damage them, unless you're able to one-shot them, a shield goes up, and then you've got to wait for a few seconds for the shield to go down to do more damage to it. And then the whole time you've got this dude flying around shooting crazy fireballs, and he's probably 1,000 times more powerful than the end dragon. So here we go. Let's see what happens here. So I guess while he's not showing up, I'm going to go ahead and... I hear him shooting. Where is he? You also have to be careful because sometimes it glitches out and like things don't load in all the way right away. There he is. Cool. Boom. So kind of, if you get lucky, you can kind of kite this guy and let him blow up the stuff for you. Blow up all these cages and whatnot. Boom, that one's down. That one's down. Of course, with this bow and arrow, this stuff doesn't stand a chance. It's one shot and everything, which is awesome. Oh. Best to have that guy in front of you where you can see what he's doing, because when he gets behind you, things get dangerous. Because if and when, I'm sure it'll happen at one point here, if he gets me with any of those attacks, oh man, it just wrecks my shield, as you can see. Of course, I've got my armor set to like 100. I think it's 600% is the maximum flight speed, so that I'm able to move as fast as possible. I actually can pretty much keep up with him if we were to get into a chase situation, which we will once I kill all these things. Which you have to do. If there's even one of them is like active, he won't take any damage. So let's oh no, no, stop it. And I've also got my bow set to automatically fire as soon as it's drawn back all the way. So basically all I have to do is hold the trigger and it'll just like rapid fire. Which is sweet, let me tell you. Alright, I think that's the whole outer ring. Get these guys. Alright. Oh, man. See, look at that one, like basically one hit, dude. He just completely wrecked me. Cool. So the only thing I lost because of the soulbound, is that what happened? Did my flux capacitor run out of juice? I bet that's what happened. Oh, it's gonna take so long for this stuff to recharge. Dang. Don't I have a capacitor bank somewhere? I might even have to make a bigger one. Man, see, that dude is crazy strong. I think what happened is my stuff wasn't fully charged, or at least my battery pack thing wasn't fully charged. And I think that's what happened, is it ran out of juice and couldn't recharge, and he hit me. Usually you get a little bit more warning than that. So let me get, oh, I don't have my thing because it's in my ender, wait a minute. See, ender pouch. Nice. So I don't actually need that pouch to get my stuff out, so that's cool. Let me put this in here. And let me hook this up to some juice. There we go. Let that thing start charging up. It's probably going to take forever. Man, so close. Alright, so that was that adventure for today. Let me turn down all this stuff. Flight lock off. Flight speed. Let's put this down to like 60%. Awesome. So, as you can see, I've done a little remodeling around the base here, mostly cosmetic stuff. Some of it's functional, but it really didn't change anything or do anything new. I decommissioned this chest, and I moved it from over there to over here I wanted to have it around. I just don't want to, I'm not using it anymore. Basically because it just doesn't play nice with the refined storage system. So what I did is I just made another bank of 64K. So I've got 3 banks that hold 512 apiece. So that's like 1.5 million roughly of storage there. And I hooked up like 4 exporters with all stacked and speed upgrades, and just dumped everything into this system. I ended up having like 50K manure in this thing. So what I did is I just hooked up this little contraption into this chest, this storage drawer. And then I set it to a void upgrade. So anything over 32 stacks, it just deletes, because I just didn't need all that manure. There's no reason for all that, and it just stacks up so quick. Then what I did to kind of keep a handle on the stuff out of these chicken coops is I set up this storage drawer array. And basically the way this works is you've got this is the controller, and this is how you interface with this system. As long as they're touching, you don't have to do any kind of piping system. They recognize each other, and they're able to basically act as their own conduit system. And then the controller would be the way, if I wanted to interface this into the refined storage or some other system, you hook it up to this controller guy. So basically what I did, of course, I moved these guys over here. They had them all spread out and stuff. I kind of condensed that little operation. Redid all the wiring piping on those, and I've just got all that piped into this thing. So this is just collecting the stuff out of those chicken coops, and then I've got void upgrades on all these. So once it reaches, whatever drawer reaches capacity, it'll just void any excess out, so as not to clog up the works. Also, I've done a little remodeling as far as the actual base building materials with the help of a couple tools. This chisel and this swapping wand. Basically, the swapping wand, I'll have to get something in my inventory here. Let me just grab this cobblestone. So, if I put down a piece of cobblestone, and I shift right click it with this swapping wand, anywhere that's obviously not already cobblestone, you can see it highlights it as if it's showing you the area that it's about to affect. And if I just right click here, it changes those blocks into cobblestone, and then it puts those blocks into my inventory and takes out the cobblestone from my inventory. So you're not like you're not making any magical matter out of nothing kind of deal. You have to have the materials with you, but it just saves you from having to break it and then replace everything, right? And then this thing here, this was marble. I farmed out of the beneath dimension, and then I used this chisel on it. So if I click on the cobblestone here, right click on the chisel, and then it brings up this GUI. You can select the texture of whatever, all the different options that it has as far as what it can do with cobblestone. And then you find something you want, like this pattern here, and you hit chisel, and it chisels that stack. Now, if you had multiple stacks, it'll allow you to do that too. I just grab a couple. So if I have this, I select this. Actually, I got to pick one that hasn't been done right. So you can see this is blue and these turn to green, as if it's saying, all right, I recognize these are all cobblestone. You click that, and then you can just chisel down through the stack as far as you want to go. I got to turn this back into cobblestone. Turn all that back into cobblestone, and throw it all back in here. Sweet. So that using these two tools is how I've managed to do all this stuff. This is regular smooth stone. This is actually a dark wood tree that I sifted out of. I think I had to sift soul sand to get it, and then you have to grow it on netherrack. I tried to grow it on dirt, and it didn't work. It let me plant it, but it never would grow. But it grew pretty quick on netherrack. So yeah, that's pretty much how I did all this. I made a diamond block and chiseled it to make this is the center spot of the map when we spawned in. I also, let me grab my wrench and turn this stupid magnet off so I stop collecting all that stuff down there from the chickens. I grab this thing and walk over here. If I go to my wrench, you can see I've covered up the pipes. Makes it just look a little cleaner than if all that was just showing. It looks kind of janky. But what those are is facades. Let me grab a pick that's not like crazy powerful. This will work. Go over here and break one of these up and show you. Conduit facade. Pop that out. Basically, these are. It's just a block from Ender.io that just uses conduit binder. There's the hardened and just the regular. The hardened is it's harder to break and it's kind of more blast resistant. And then there's the transparent ones that when I switch to my wrench, it makes them invisible so you can tell where your pipes are. I think if you're holding a conduit, it does the same thing. These don't do that, so you just have to know where they are. But in a situation where you don't want people to know where your pipes are, that's how you would make that like a permanent mask, basically. And then I painted them. This painting machine, this stupid wrench. You just put whatever texture block that you want to paint them as, and then put the facades in here, and it will paint them. And then you just place them like regular blocks on the facades. Sweet, cool deal with that. And it looked like actually somehow, oh, maybe because I had the wrench equipped. Oh yeah, so if I equip my wrench, you can see in the hotbar it shows it's just being a facade, not the actual stone block. So that's cool too. These guys I figured out a little bit more about. Basically, in order to get that mica stuff that I needed to upgrade past tier 2, I had to make this void resource miner, which makes sense. This is like any kind of world generation blocks that aren't actually ore. They're just materials. So that's the mica came from there. And then of course this is the resource, or the actual ore miner. So I set both of those up. They work exactly the same as far as how to build them, and actually the amount of materials and stuff are exactly the same. You just need the two different controllers. So I went ahead and set those up to tier 4. I got this dude finished. I haven't adjusted the fuel rods at all yet, but I went ahead and got it filled up, which took forever. That's what I was doing while I was waiting for this thing to fill up with fuel. This is when I did all this moving around stuff. Yeah, also I moved my lava operation down here to a little more compact. I made this just to have a steady supply of water. I hooked the lava to the this doodad right here, the refinery, just to make sure that's probably not necessary, but it's right there, so whatever. That's got lava being pumped into it all the time now. I expanded this out. I'm probably wasting a bunch of resources. It's probably not able to actually accept as many of this thing as spitting out, but whatever. Who cares? This is just to delete all the chicken poop. I think I talked about that already. I moved these back one, just in case I decide to expand this to tier 8, which I actually have worked out the way to maybe make that a little bit easier. So as of right now, we're pulling in 1.5 million RF. I am using a little bit. My wireless charger is probably working itself to death to charge up my armor and stuff, which is not even close, as you can see. And this capacitor bank is probably pulling whatever it's capable. Max output. Can I change that? Can I make this like... No, that's as high as it goes. I might have to make a bigger one of these. I think I can make higher tier ones that maybe transfer more power. This vibrant capacitor bank. I don't know if it actually... Okay, so it can do 18,000 per tick, and this one is doing... How did I get it to show me that? Capacitor pack. Oh, so that's a jetpack thing. I don't care about that. I want to know how much this thing does. I don't think it tells me. I'd have to probably make it to actually get into the GUI to see how much output I could set it to. Whatever. Anyway, sweet deal. So I guess since my expedition to the end there ended badly, I can go ahead and get started a little bit on the RF dimensions that I wanted to do, which is kind of why I started building these things, to make the dimensional shards, which I got a bunch of. What I did for those, I made this, it's just a diamond pickaxe, and I put fortune 3 on it, which increases the drop chances of when you break ores and stuff. I think I had like 6 or 8 stacks of the dimensional shards, and I used the looting on it, and it gave me just tons and tons of that stuff. So sweet. Let's pull this out. I want to keep an eye on this thing and see. So that's pulling out of there. So it's using some of this stuff. This thing was chock full, and I don't think it's actually... I think this thing's just stuck in an endless loop. Basically, my idea was to have this is hooked up over there by the chickens collecting the uranium, have it piping into the reactor, and then the waste is outputting into this crafter, and whenever it collects 8, it makes the plutonium and then pipes it back into this chest to be ready to go back into the reactor. That's just the interface pulling any valid fuel out of the system into this chest here. If I was to put uranium or whatever, yellorium, whatever in here, it's going to pull it out and pump it into there too. And then this was supposed to be just like an overflow, but I don't think it's set up right. It's kind of just stuck in a loop. Anyway, so let me grab a couple stacks of this stuff. I don't want gravel, no. So one thing about this system, it's so finicky with some things. I probably don't need that much, but I'll hang on to it anyway. Right, so RF tools dimensions is something I've never messed with at all. I have kind of brushed up and watched a few videos on how it kind of works. It's pretty neat. Actually, it's really neat once you kind of get into it and understand it. But I'm going to need a few of these machines to do anything first. So I need this dimension inscriber. I'm going to go ahead and make a few of these because I'm pretty sure everything in here uses those. I should have the rest of this stuff, so let me make that. I'm also going to need a builder, dimensional builder. I should have all this stuff. Sweet. What's next? So these dimension tabs, are actually what the dimensions get written to. These are basically the storage drive of a dimension. So each individual dimension is stored in one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a couple of those real quick. What else do we need here? I need a dialing device, which is somewhere. Dimension editor. Alright, let's do it like this. Dialing device. Ender IO. I wonder. So Ender IO must have its own teleportation system too, other than the wand and stuff. Anyway, this is what I'm looking for. RF Tools dialing device. Get that. And what else? Dimlet workbench. I've got a list here. I'm not just coming up with all this off the top of my head. I was taking notes, doing some homework. Dimlet workbench. Okay, so I need one of these. I can't do that yet. Machine infuser. Go ahead and get one of those. Let's see, this part of what I needed this dimensional shards for. This thing like infuses some of the machines and parts from this mod with these dimensional shards to make them more effective, efficient, or whatever the case may be for that particular item. And some of these absorbers will come in handy at some point. There's a few different ones. I'm not going to make any of them yet. But these are basically like ways to capture, for lack of a better word, essence to add to your dimensions. So there's materials, liquids, biomes. You set this in a specific biome, it'll turn in. It'll basically acquire the essence of that biome, and then you can program that into a dimension, so on and so forth. But anyway, I've got enough to get started here and kind of just show how this is going to work. Or at least very basically show how you can build your own dimensions. So I'm not really sure where I want to put this, because there's quite a few blocks that this thing ends up being. So I want a pretty decent space. I guess. I mean, this could work here. This little area here. I could put it up here. This is going to be kind of empty. Once I move, I do want to move most of these machines out of here, or at least kind of pretty them up, reorganize them into some kind of order. Anyway, whatever. I can worry about that later. Let's just go ahead and set this stuff up. So I've got my. Actually, let me grab some. I don't need the whole stack, but that's all right. And I just want something to like get this up like off the ground. So it's kind of eye level. Dialing device. This guy. Break that. And one of these doesn't require any power. I don't remember which one, but it'll tell me when I try to. Yeah, this one here. So the inscriber doesn't need any power. The rest of them do. So let me put this away. And let me just real quick get this stuff out of my other stuff out of my inventory. This. I'll hang on to that. I'll hang on to that. So basically, what we got going on here. This is the way to power them or build them something. Okay, so here's the what do they call this? The inscriber. So this is how you actually build the dimensions, and there's a whole bunch of more complicated stuff that this gets into. It gets really deep, but I'm just kind of gonna go through the basics. So you put a empty dimension tab into the inscriber, and you hit store. And basically what that does is it randomly just generates a random dimension without any input from you whatsoever. And then you take that guy and you put it into the dimension builder. And what that's going to do is power this thing up, generate the dimension and all its properties. Being that this is random, it's just whatever that thing decided to put in there. Eventually, you can start to specify and put in attributes that you want at the cost of power. So basically, the way this works, I'm gonna let this thing charge up to 40,000, or I think it holds 40 million internal. So then what we've got here is this dialing device. In order to use this, though, we need to make RF tools. These dudes here. Matter transmitter, matter receiver. Let me go make a couple of those real quick, or one of each of those. One of those, and one of these. And what we'll do is just pop these two blocks out for now. Put that there, put that there. Hook those up to the power. So if I go back to the dialer, there we go. Now this is the location of the transmitter. The receiver is your return portal to get back home. It's not so important for me because I have this guy. If I had forgot to do that or get stuck in a dimension, I can use that to get home. But if you don't have one of those, or your whatever mod you're playing doesn't have one, then you got to use this guy. Cool. So that thing's all charged up, and you can see it ID2 in here. That's just the random name that it was given. When you create these things, you can name it here. I just didn't because this is just a random one, right? So basically, you kind of have to just make a random dimension at first just to get started in this. So what you do is you click the transmitter, and then you click the dimension you want to go to, and you dial it. You can dial it once, so as soon as you go into the portal, it turns off, or you can dial it always so that this portal is always active to that dimension. And then you just step in the pad, and off we go. Let's see what we get. This is completely random, so I have no idea what we're about to walk into. And it appears as if we've we've generated a world of nothing. It's literally an ocean and nothing. Now, I don't know 100% how the Sky Factory being a void map, or overworld, affects this thing, but it's completely possible that we just completely randomly generated an empty world. So, you know what I did do? I forgot to make the actual item that you link to the portal at home to send you back. So it's a good thing I have my this thing, or I'd be stuck in this dimension. I would literally have to roll back the server, my save back to before I came in here. So let's set this back to home and go back home. Take me home. All right. So that was a bust. That was completely not cool. Let me try again one more time here, just to maybe come up with something that, let's try again. Try again. Alright, pop that in there. We can take this out and probably throw it away because it's useless, right? There's nothing there. Basically what we're trying to do is find a dimension that has, like, structures in it. There's a structure that's like it's kind of like a house that's added by this mod that has these dimlet parts, and maybe even the full dimlets. These dimlets are basically the building blocks of dimensions. You can use these to construct the full dimlets, and then you can add dimlets to the inscriber when you create a dimension to tell it what stuff you want in it, as far as everything, terrain, enemies, void or not void, time of day, pretty much anything you can imagine. This thing gets pretty crazy in depth as far as so was that ID2 still? Yeah, okay. So hopefully since I did another random, let's just do dial once. Hopefully since I did another random one, it should come up with something new here. Basically, if you try to create a dimension without change, if you start to specify dimensions, see, this is what I was afraid of. This is totally, well, no, because it's not deep ocean, right? That is deep ocean. Alright, let's go home, try again one more time. Because I'm pretty sure this is supposed to do completely random. So what happens if I trash this first? If this doesn't work, then obviously I am confused on my understanding, which is very, very, what? Very, very limited in my understanding of this mod, if you can't tell. So, possibly, yeah, see, that just filled right back up instantly. So this is not, I'm going to have to go back and look and see how to actually create another random dimension. But that's kind of the basics of it. I'm going to have to fool around with this definitely a lot to kind of get my head wrapped around how this whole stuff works. And then once I start generating dimensions that actually have stuff, start collecting these dimlet pieces and parts, then I can use the extractor to like tear it down, and that's just a whole bunch of stuff. Anyway, that's on the plate for next time. So hope everybody's having a great day today, and we will catch you later.